Next on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Ahead, we'll highlight some of the outstanding ranches in our country who find unusual ways to contribute to both the beef industry and the environment. Plus, hear from the man responsible for directing U.S. trade negotiations. And we head east and get a first-hand account of the United States Meat Export Federation's travels to Taiwan.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen with your host, Susie Ross.
Hello, I'm Susie Ross. Thanks for watching Cattlemen to Cattlemen. In this week's cattle industry news, spring corn plantings are continuing to fall behind schedule. That's according to the latest USDA crop report. Farmers in key corn-producing states have returned to the fields following the cold, damp April weather, but there's a lot of ground to make up. USDA had projected 90 million corn acres to be planted, about 12 million more acres than last year. It's not panic time yet, but soon farmers will have to turn to shorter season crops. This could result not only in fewer corn acres planted, but smaller yields as well. Producers' voices were heard on Capitol Hill as Illinois cattleman Steve Foglesong testified before members of the House Agriculture Committee about development of 2007 Farm Bill conservation programs. Foglesong told the committee that cattlemen want these programs continued, but refined in an effort to make them easier to use and to ensure adequate resources. The most popular program among cattlemen is the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, or EQIP. Because the program is so popular, a substantial backlog of applications remains. NCBA supports increased funding for EQIP. In the next Farm Bill, NCBA would like to see overlap and redundancy in programs eliminated and efficiency improved. Like so many industries these days, the cattle business is feeling the pain of high transportation costs. We have more in this week's Market Watch.
Market Watch, brought to you by Pfizer Animal Health.
We're joined this week by John Madej of Drovers. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Susie.
Transportation is an issue that you cover for drovers on a regular basis. Obviously, the high cost of diesel fuel has a big impact on the cattle industry, and we're not expecting a price relief this summer. How do you see this affecting beef producers?
It really has a lot of effects on the whole industry, Susie, and we've seen diesel prices go up about 40 cents per gallon just since February. And most of the truckers I talk to say that they try to avoid raising their rates just in response to the up and down fluctuations in fuel prices. But when it goes up that much and stays high, eventually they have to raise their rates just to cover their own costs. So one owner of a trucking company I talked with just this week said that he's raised his rates from about $2.25 a mile to $3.25 over the last couple of years in response to higher fuel prices. And he said that if he were to raise them in response to this latest increase, that he'd probably have to charge about $3.60. So for these long hauls around the country, that really adds up. And one of the impacts on producers can be that the buyers bidding on cattle that they need to transport a long ways to a feed yard or to a grazing area, they're likely to bid lower because they need to compensate for the higher transport costs.
What are the key issues with regards to quality assurance that you can speak to?
Well, transport certainly can be stressful for cattle. It can have negative impacts on beef quality, on animal health, and animal welfare. And so it's an area that the industry really needs to focus on, and there's a lot that can be done to minimize those kind of problems. Certainly the animal rights groups are focused on this area. They see it as kind of a vulnerable place for the beef industry and for the livestock industry in general. So it's important for the industry to be proactive and try to minimize any kind of problems with transporting animals. And NCBA has developed the Master Beef Transporters Guide, which is an excellent program to try to bring beef quality assurance through that transport phase. And producers themselves can do a lot just to prepare their cattle, try to make life easy for the truckers. And a big part of it is just good animal handling practices. And one of the things that we've heard for years from some of the experts in this area, Temple Grandin and Bud Williams, have talked about preparing the cattle with good handling practices all through the production cycle so that when the day comes that they're ready to be moved, carried, loaded onto a truck or something, that the cattle are accustomed to that, and they'll load with less stress and unload at the other end.
Good. That's enlightening stuff. Thank you very much, John.
Well, thank you.
Hopefully we can have you again in the future.
I hope so.
That'd be great. For more on these issues and to get a copy of the Beef Quality Assurance Master Cattle Transportation Guide, please visit our website at cattlementocattlemen.org. The Environmental Stewardship Award Program recognizes cattlemen from around the country who do an outstanding job caring for and improving natural resources. This week, we're visiting 2 past National ESAP Award winners. Let's head out to the work ranch in California.
In the late 1890s, George Work's grandparents first homesteaded a portion of land near San Miguel, California. Now, nearly 115 years later, George and Elaine are the 3rd generation of family members to operate the ranch, with the 4th and 5th generations poised to one day take the reins themselves. The Work Ranch is a 12,000-acre cow-calf stocker operation that has diversified by offering guided hunts, a farm stay program, public trail rides, and a girls' horse camp. Managing that much land is quite a task, but George Work has a way of doing things differently.
George has always been kind of someone on the forefront. Oftentimes this kind of puts you in an odd spot with your neighbors or your friends. They think you're like 4 short of a 6-pack.
However, a look at just one of George's innovations shows that he's ahead of his time.
The trough here is a dual-purpose livestock wildlife watering trough, and it's an innovative idea of George's, a way to allow livestock to water as well as many, if not all, species of wildlife.
This is really accessible to all species that we have here. And on the other end, instead of the steep escape ramp, we have a 3-to-1 slope which will allow the birds to actually bathe on it.
Elaine and George's son, Ben, has proved himself to be an innovator as well. To control brush, Ben suggested they use their cattle. With the use of alfalfa hay as feed, a large number of cattle pushed their way through and crushed a field in minutes, containing brush that was sometimes 6 feet high.
George is a very good environmental steward here in the county. He has a lot of good novel ideas that we can learn from.
NRCS has been very helpful in some of their technical advice, and the big thing is probably for me has been the cost share and the support.
Protecting the ranch's native wildlife is also a priority. Quail guzzlers, which are used by quail and other wildlife to drink, are just one example of ways that the Work Ranch looks out for nature.
We want to make sure that there's a benefit to the wildlife in whatever we do. 1, because we like to see them, and 2, it's an income source for us.
And I think the realization comes that you can't have a sound economic decision unless it's also socially sound and environmentally sound.
That's something I've always admired about George. His passion is to make things better on the land than it was when he got it even. It's a formidable task. It's a good task.
We have known George Work to be someone who not only is a great spokesman for his industry, and not only within his industry, but to the larger public. A large reason that great habitat is out there is because of the families like the Works who have been for generations caring for the land and protecting it.
The reason the Works love to take care of their land is simple. They've chosen to.
You can say you love the land, but remember, love is not a feeling, it's a decision. Whether it's with the relationship with the land or a relationship with your spouse, it's a decision and it requires work. And you have to know what that person or what that land needs.
Environmental Stewardship Award winners come from across the country. Next, we'll head to Nebraska for a look at a ranch that's more than a century old. Plus, the man behind U.S. trade negotiations explains how he's working to improve the market for U.S. beef. And then we'll head to Asia with the United States Meat Export Federation. But first, here's a look at this week's market summary provided by CattleFax.
In 1874, an innovation changed the beef industry forever. It was called barbed wire, and it brought an end to open-range grazing and began a whole new era of cattle management. Today, there's another breakthrough innovation changing the beef industry. It's called Draxxin, and it's one more way Pfizer Animal Health is working with veterinarians and cattlemen to open up a whole new era in animal health. To learn more about Draxxin, talk to your veterinarian.
To some, it's just a pasture. But to you, it's part of a livelihood to be passed along. That's why Fort Dodge Animal Health developed Cydectin with pasture health in mind. Cydectin protects against performance-robbing internal and external parasites. And it's the only insecticide proven to have no adverse effects on beneficial dung beetle populations. Cydectin from Fort Dodge Animal Health, protecting your herd and your pasture, so they can both be passed along.
There ain't no bugs on me. There ain't no bugs on me. There may be bugs on some of you mugs, but there ain't no bugs on me.
Canine Advantix is the one that repels and kills disease-spreading fleas, ticks, and mosquitoes. Frontline Plus doesn't repel and isn't effective against mosquitoes. So ask your veterinarian for Canine Advantix, the one that repels and kills.
Yeah, there may be bugs on some of you mugs, but there ain't no bugs on me.
And now, this week's Management Minute.
Before breeding season begins, a few management procedures involving the bulls can increase the likelihood of more cows getting pregnant. In pastures with more than one bull, make certain that the bulls will be together and have been in a common trap prior to the breeding season. Bulls will establish a social hierarchy, and it's better to get this done before the breeding season begins rather than waiting until they are first placed with the cows. Also, put young bulls with young bulls and mature bulls with mature bulls. Mixing the ages will result in the mature bull dominating the younger bull completely, and in some instances causing serious injury. If the plan is to rotate bulls during the breeding season, then use the mature bulls first and follow with the yearling bulls in the last third of the breeding season. This way, the young bulls will have fewer cows to settle and will be 1 to 2 months older when they first start breeding. Finally, a conservative rule of thumb for young bulls is to place them with roughly the same number of cows as is their age in months. For example, an 18-month-old bull is best suited with roughly 18 cows.
Welcome back to Cattlemen. Another Environmental Stewardship Award winner is the Kelly Ranch, which sits in the Nebraska Sandhills. There, the Kelly family is working to preserve not only the environment, but its decades-old legacy.
Even at more than 20,000 acres, the Kelly Ranch is a family business, and it's been that way for 117 years. Located in western Nebraska, along the North Platte River, the Kelly operation is actually 2 ranches just about 15 miles apart. The land they occupy is a unique and environmentally sensitive run at the southern edge of the Nebraska Sandhills. Rolling sand dunes, steep slopes, and fragile riparian areas create constant challenges for Mike and Cynthia Kelly.
The Nebraska Sandhills is very unique in that it makes up an area 3 times the size of Massachusetts. And of course it is made up of sand. And we are in a fairly low rainfall area of 15 to 16 inches a year. But it makes it for an excellent grassland for our cattle. But it is a very fragile ecosystem, which does require good management to take care of that resource.
Using ecologically sound business practices is just a natural way of life for the Kellys. The frail environment demands special attention, but Mike and Cynthia have learned, with a little extra care and some clever ranching techniques, the beautiful Midwestern ranch can produce impressive results.
Environmental stewardship and ranching go hand in hand, and today to be a successful rancher or even to be a profitable rancher, you have to be a good steward of your natural resource.
The Kelly Ranch, another example of today's environmentally friendly cattle industry.
For nearly 2 decades, the Environmental Stewardship Award Program has recognized both regional and national winners. Head to beefusa.org for more information on the ESAP program. It's an opportunity to put stewardship back into your livestock production while increasing profitability and quality of life. It's all a part of the New Holland 2007 Ranch Stewardship Live Tour, and it's coming to an area near you. Join experts including Kurt Pate, Kyle Clement, and Dr. Ron Gill, along with Cattlemen to Cattlemen's own Todd McCartney, as they tour the country with educational demonstrations that will impact your operation. The 2007 Ranch Stewardship Live Tour is stopping in 6 states, including Missouri, Illinois, Nebraska, Arkansas, Virginia, and Tennessee this summer. If you're interested in attending this 2-day event, head to cattlementocattlemen.org for details on dates and locations. You don't want to miss this exciting educational opportunity. Cattlemen know how important trade is to the beef industry. Ahead, we'll introduce you to the man working to improve international trade for U.S. agriculture. We'll be right back.
Purina's wind and rain minerals are research tested and field proven to provide balanced mineral nutrition essential for cattle health, growth, and reproduction. They're highly palatable so cattle consume what they need when they need it. And wind and rain minerals special formulation resists the elements so they won't blow out of the feeder and maintain their palatability even if they've been wet. Wind and rain cattle minerals from Purina Mills, building better cattle.
From fresh tomatoes to potatoes and chicken to beef, we're as picky about our quality ingredients as you are. Because that's what we're made of.
Cattlemen's Capital Concerns, brought to you by Fort Dodge Animal Health, makers of Sidectin-Poron and Triangle Vaccines.
In this week's Cattlemen's Capital Concerns, an interview with the man responsible for directing all U.S. agricultural trade negotiations around the world. Cattlemen to Cattlemen caught up with U.S. Chief Agricultural Negotiator Richard Crowder in his Washington, D.C. office. Ambassador Crowder and his team negotiate directly with foreign governments to create trade agreements and resolve disputes, ultimately breaking down trade barriers for U.S. farmers and ranchers.
So day to day, we are in constant negotiations with trading partners from around the world. And in the future, as we look at growth, 95% of the world's population is outside of the U.S. And that's where the growth in food demand is going to come from.
Ambassador Crowder says NCBA knows the importance of opening new markets and has made its presence known in the Washington trade arena.
Cattlemen have been, as you say, very supportive of our trade agenda. And we work very closely with the cattlemen on all of our agriculture negotiations, including tariffs, including export subsidies, and including the market access issues.
Spring priorities include breaking down barriers to the European Union.
We're in the process of negotiating with Europe in terms of how to get some beef flowing, and we've made some progress on that this year in the hormone case. We've also made it in terms of plant operations, in terms of requirements that beef plants have to meet to export beef to Europe.
The effort to end long-standing BSE issues with South Korea is a big issue, and Crowder is highlighting the importance of trade agreements to lower unfair tariffs on American exports.
Well, overall, you know, we have like a 12% average tariff on ag products here. The rest of the world has 62%. We have a 26% tariff on beef. The EU has a 118% tariff on beef. Japan has a 50% tariff on beef. Korea has a 40% tariff.
With a huge trade agenda and a continued fight against export barriers to U.S. beef, Crowder needs continued support from cattlemen.
Domestic and international policy are important to your results. be a participant in your association, be a voice influencing policy because they do influence your bottom line. So stay involved.
Through free trade agreements and world trade talks, the U.S. is calling for aggressive reductions in beef export tariffs. Right now, FTAs with Peru and Colombia, which would lower tariffs on U.S. beef, have been finalized and are awaiting approval in Congress. Many folks are also watching Asia, as it is an important market for U.S. beef. We'll take you on a trip with the United States Meat Export Federation as they visit Taiwan. We'll be right back.
Agriculture is a small portion of the population now, and if we're not working together, we're not going to get anywhere.
As our family, we cannot be in Washington, D.C. all the time, and I just couldn't live without NCBA representing.
They're looking out for our interests. They're there fighting for us every day.
If you got 1 cow or 2 cows or 100 cows, you need to be a member.
I'm a member of the NCBA because a long time ago, 35 years ago, I felt that I needed to know more of what my industry is doing. So I got started at the county level. If you're in the cattle industry, now's the time to join and let your voice be heard loud and clear.
You need NCBA working for you, and NCBA needs you. It's easy to join. Just call, get online, or talk with your state affiliate and sign up today.
Welcome back. When it comes to Asian export markets, many people think of Japan and Korea, but Taiwan is also a key market for U.S. beef, as some cattlemen recently witnessed firsthand. Brian Baxter has more in this report from the U.S. Meat Export Federation's tour of Taiwan.
Taipei is the sprawling capital city of Taiwan, an island of 23 million people. Here, a U.S. Meat Export Federation team found U.S. beef is a popular item in restaurants and in Taiwan's big, busy supermarkets.
The markets we've seen for U.S. beef here are tremendous. We were at a Costco store the other day, and the people were picking up the beef. They were almost not checking the price. It was all USDA choice, and they were picking it up by huge amounts. It was really impressive.
There was one lady there that I believe it drove like an hour and a half to that Costco store, and she pretty well filled up her shopping cart with the U.S. beef.
You really don't realize it till you go to the grocery store or go to the restaurants and watch how they prepare it and talk to the chefs and down to the waiters even are excited about U.S. beef.
Even though Taiwan did close to U.S. beef in the wake of the BSE issue, USMEF's work in communicating the science behind and safety of U.S. beef to traders, retailers, and to Taiwanese consumers produced outstanding results.
They read the safety story of the American beef. They decided it was safe. Retailers decided it was safe, the restaurateurs. So they've come back, and they've come back in a big way. So, you know, one of the big themes is if we have access to these markets, we can sell. We can sell more than we did pre-BSE.
Once the market reopened, of course, then they were ready to go. And from day one, the USMEF team here in Taipei had a very aggressive plan already in place, and they've been working very hard and very successfully to get U.S. beef back on the plate.
Last year, U.S. beef exports to Taiwan reached a record level of more than $100 million, making this the third largest market for U.S. beef. I'm Brian Baxter reporting.
For more on the growth of U.S. beef exports to Taiwan and other overseas markets, visit cattlemen2cattlemen.org. This week's legacy photos are all about Mom, just in time for the Mother's Day holiday. Let's take a look. Please keep sending those photos. We very much enjoy seeing your family and operation. Head to cattlemen.org for more information. Next week, we'll take a closer look at spring herd health management. Also, in our Center of the Plate section, we'll look at carcass value research, plus all of your news and market headlines. Thanks for joining us on NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Be sure to tune in next week. A new episode airs every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern Time right here on RFD TV.